One of the most important aspects of pricing is not just setting price to begin with, but then pricing decisions being made over time. So let's talk about pricing over time. First off, understand that the idea of pricing over time impacts how customers will view pricing and view the product category. Price sensitivity among consumers increases when price is emphasized as a competitive or promotional tool. Two good examples of this, the airline industry and grocery stores. In the airline industry, obviously, price is used as a competitive and promotional tool all the time, and as a result, almost everybody who flies is very price sensitive. Same thing happens in a grocery store. Many times you'll catch yourself in a grocery store trying to decide whether you should pay 79 cents or 59 cents for a particular product like ketchup or mustard, when if you think about it, that's only 20 cents. Price sensitivity increases when the range of prices is wide. When there's a wide range of prices, people become more price sensitive because they see that there are all sorts of prices available. And price sensitivity increases when the price differentials are wide. This means the differences between prices is wide. And so one alternative is $100, the next one is $200, the next one is $300. Well, people are more likely to trade themselves down and become more price sensitive when the differentials are wider. And price sensitivity increases when products are perceived as substitutes. Airline business is a pretty good example of this. Ketchup, mustard, many of the items that you buy in a grocery store might be another good example. So before you cut price, things that you need to do is, before you decide to cut price, you need to evaluate potential reactions by competitors. Let me give you an example. So let's say that you own one of the 3 gas stations on the corner of Maryland Parkway and Tropicana. By the way, there used to be 4 gas stations there before one was knocked down and they put a Del Taco up on one of the 4 corners. But at one point in time, there were 4 gas stations there. So let's say that you own one of those gas stations and you decide that you need to increase revenues today, and you know that the demand for gasoline is relatively elastic. So you go out and you take your little suction cup thing out there and you go out there and you change the price of your gasoline from $2.59.9 to $2.49.9. You cut the price by 10 cents a gallon. Well, before you go out and do that, you need to think, what might the competition do? Because when you do that, what happens? Well, you come inside and you start to get more business, and then pretty soon the little guy across the street goes out with his little suction cup sign and he reduces his price of gasoline down from $2.59 past your $2.49, now down to $2.45.9. Now what? All right. So before you start to cut price, evaluate what potential reactions there might be by competitors. What actions are most likely, and then what would your reaction be to their actions? And then other competitive reactions that might take place. For instance, the competition might not actually cut price. They might try to add some benefits at the other end instead. And then you need to evaluate the consequences of that particular price cut. So before you decide to cut price, ask yourself, what's the competition going to do when we cut our price? By the way, competitors are more likely to respond to a price change when the number of firms is small. In the case of our example, all 3 gas stations on one corner, so the number of firms in that one little area is relatively small, plus you're in close proximity. If the products are similar, and if the buyers are highly informed, and of course every car that pulls up to that particular corner can identify the price of gasoline at each of those 3 gas stations all at once. The reactions to a price cut might be a number of things. You could do nothing. That is, just wait and see what happens. You could match that price cut. That is, they cut their price by 10 cents, we cut ours by 10 cents. You could aggressively retaliate by cutting prices even further or increasing some sort of non-price marketing effort by, for instance, offering a free car wash at our particular gas station. Once again, before you react to a price cut, you want to think about the consequences of. How do you insulate yourself from price cutters? Well, the first thing I always recommend is that you signal your competitive intentions to retaliate. My favorite story about this is when Steve Wynn got ready to open the Mirage many, many years ago. Many people on the strip thought that that would create over demand, and many of his competitors talked about the idea of reducing the price of their rooms to make sure that their customers didn't go over to the new Mirage. Well, Steve Wynn had a press conference, and in the press conference he said, "Listen, no matter what, we're going to fill this hotel with gamblers. So if I have to give the rooms away, I'm going to give them away to make sure that I've got my hotel full of potential gamblers." Once again, he wasn't really going to do that, but he wanted to signal his competitive intention to retaliate to any price cuts by the competition. As a result, no one cut their prices, everyone survived, and Las Vegas went merrily on its way. You should also try to focus on stressing total costs instead of one particular cost. Grocery stores like to do this. Sure, you can get a little better deal on one thing or another, but each grocery store claims that they have the lowest total costs for your whole grocery store basket and your costs over time. Another way to insulate yourself from price cutters is to have cumulative quantity discounts. That is, offer discounts that accumulate the more you buy. Another thing is to focus on telling you don't sell a product, but rather a total product or service. That is, I don't just sell a product, I offer technical help, service on those products, delivery, financing, and so you try to insulate yourself from price cutters by arguing it's my total product offering and my total organization that is behind this product and not just the product itself. And then, of course, the other thing that you need to do, differentiate yourself. Make your product different in a way that adds value for the customers. Conclusion, there are no know-it-alls, but use some common sense. Before you cut price, think about what's likely to happen and think about what you're going to do when the competitors react. And if your competitors cut price, have a strategy ready to go in place. Perhaps the worst thing you can do is nothing, but you always need to think through what you might do if the competition cuts price.